The conference room went silent the moment the CEO pointed at the faded employee badge hanging from the man's neck. "Badge number 7842, he said with a cold smile. "You've been here long enough to know how this company works. If you can't even follow a simple protocol, maybe you don't belong here." Several executives looked down at their laptops. A few employees froze in place. The man holding the delivery cart didn't argue. He simply adjusted the backpack sitting beside the cart, the one with a tiny dinosaur keychain hanging from the zipper, and quietly apologized. What nobody in that room noticed was the little handwritten note tucked into the side pocket. "Dad, don't forget my science fair volcano tonight. Love, Lily." And what nobody expected was that less than 10 minutes later, the entire security team would come running toward the lobby, not because of badge number 7842, but because one quiet act of kindness was about to expose something far more valuable than authority. Every morning before sunrise, Daniel Brooks woke at 5 a.m. in his small apartment on the east side of Columbus, Ohio. His mornings followed the same rhythm. Coffee. Lunch packed for his 8-year-old daughter. A quick check to make sure her homework folder was inside her backpack. Then the two of them would eat breakfast together while listening to old jazz records Daniel had inherited from his grandfather. It wasn't a luxurious life, but it was peaceful. 5 years earlier, Daniel had lost his wife, Emma, after a sudden illness. Grief had nearly swallowed him whole. There were mornings when getting out of bed felt impossible. But every time he saw Lily smiling at him with sleepy eyes and messy curls, he reminded himself that someone still depended on him. So he kept going. He worked 2 jobs for a while before finally finding stable employment as an internal logistics coordinator at one of the largest technology companies in the Midwest. Officially, his title sounded impressive. In reality, he moved equipment between departments, delivered confidential files, coordinated conference room supplies, and solved dozens of small problems nobody else wanted to handle. People often joke that Daniel knew every hallway in the 20-story headquarters better than the architects. He smiled every time. Because helping people had become part of who he was. If someone dropped papers, Daniel helped. If an intern looked lost, Daniel walked them to the correct office. If the janitor needed help moving furniture, Daniel stayed after his shift. He never asked whether helping was part of his job description. To him, kindness wasn't extra work. It was simply the right thing to do. Across the city, Victor Langston lived a very different life. As CEO of Brightcore Technologies, Victor had built the company from a small startup into a billion-dollar business. His discipline was legendary. His standards were even higher. Employees admired his intelligence, but they feared his presence. Victor believed success required pressure. Mistakes, in his mind, were signs of weakness. He rarely remembered employees' names. Instead, he referred to many people by department or badge number. Efficiency over emotion. Results over relationships. That philosophy had helped build a remarkable company. But somewhere along the way, people had stopped smiling when he entered a room. The trouble began on a rainy Tuesday. Brightcore was hosting investors from across the country. Everything had to be perfect. Fresh flowers decorated the lobby. Digital displays showcased upcoming products. Executives rehearsed presentations for hours. Daniel had spent the morning transporting prototype equipment between meeting rooms. Halfway through his final delivery, he noticed an elderly visitor standing alone near the elevators. She looked confused. "Can I help you?" Daniel asked. "My husband is supposed to be receiving an award upstairs," she said nervously. "I think I got lost." Daniel glanced at his watch. He was already running behind. Still, he smiled. "I'll walk you there." 5 minutes later, after making sure she reached the correct ballroom, Daniel hurried downstairs. Unfortunately, that 5-minute delay changed everything. The CEO's presentation was waiting for one missing display unit. The one Daniel had been transporting. Victor spotted him entering the executive conference room. Finally. Every conversation stopped. Victor looked directly at Daniel's badge. 7842. Daniel immediately apologized. "I'm sorry, sir. A visitor needed assistance finding." Victor interrupted. "You delayed an executive presentation because someone couldn't read a directory? It only took a few minutes. A few minutes multiplied across an organization becomes millions of dollars." Daniel lowered his eyes. "I understand." "No," Victor replied sharply. "You clearly don't." The room remained painfully quiet. Nobody defended Daniel. Nobody spoke. Embarrassment settled over the room like heavy fog. Daniel placed the equipment where it belonged. "Again, I'm sorry." Victor turned away. "Security, make sure badge 7842 reviews workplace priorities before tomorrow." Daniel nodded once. Then quietly left. The humiliation spread through the building faster than any company announcement. People whispered in break rooms. Some felt angry. Others simply felt sad. Because everyone knew Daniel. He was the employee who remembered birthdays. The one who carried extra umbrellas in his locker. The one who kept snacks for interns working late. If anyone deserved public respect, it was him. Daniel tried not to let it bother him. He still had work to finish. He still needed to leave by 4:30 to make Lily's science fair. Life didn't pause for hurt feelings. As he crossed the lobby, he noticed something unusual. A young boy sat alone on one of the benches. Maybe 6 years old. Crying quietly. No parent nearby. Daniel knelt. "Hey, buddy." The child looked up through tears. "I can't find my grandma." Daniel pressed the emergency assistance button at the security desk. "What's your name?" "Ethan." "Okay, Ethan." Daniel smiled gently. "We're going to find her." Instead of rushing away, Daniel stayed beside the child. He gave him a bottle of water from his lunch bag. They counted the fish swimming inside the decorative lobby aquarium. Slowly. The tears stopped. Upstairs, security cameras captured everything. A guard reviewing footage noticed an elderly woman frantically searching each hallway. She had become separated from Ethan after receiving an unexpected phone call. Security immediately coordinated a search. Within minutes, officers located the grandmother rushing toward the lobby. The reunion was emotional. She hugged Ethan tightly while thanking everyone nearby. Especially Daniel. "I don't know what I would have done," she whispered. "You stayed with him." Daniel smiled. "I'm a dad. I couldn't leave him alone." The security supervisor happened to be standing nearby. He had also witnessed the CEO's earlier confrontation. Looking at Daniel now, he shook his head. This man just got criticized for stopping to help people. One guard quietly replied. "Seems like helping people is exactly what he does." Later that afternoon, something unexpected happened. The elderly woman asked to speak with someone from executive leadership. Not to complain. To express gratitude. She insisted the company should know how Daniel had treated her and Ethan. Coincidentally, she wasn't just any visitor. She was the widow of one of Brightcore's earliest investors. Her late husband had believed that company culture mattered just as much as quarterly earnings. The board still honored his legacy every year. Her opinion carried weight. A great deal of it. Victor received the report just before another executive meeting. He skimmed it quickly. Then requested the security footage. The screen showed everything. Daniel helping the lost woman. Walking her upstairs. Being late because of it. Receiving public criticism. Then. Helping Ethan without hesitation. No frustration. No resentment. No concern about whether anyone was watching. Just quiet compassion. Victor watched the footage twice. Then a third time. For the first time that day. He wasn't evaluating productivity. He was evaluating himself. That evening, long after most employees had gone home, Victor walked through the nearly empty building. He noticed things he'd ignored for years. A thank you card taped inside the mailroom. Photos from volunteer events. Employee appreciation boards. Small reminders that businesses weren't built by spreadsheets alone. They were built by people. He remembered something his own father once told him while repairing bicycles in their family garage. You can measure profits. But the way people feel after meeting you. That's your real legacy. Victor hadn't thought about those words in decades. The next morning, Daniel arrived expecting another ordinary shift. Instead, he found a handwritten note asking him to report to the auditorium. His stomach tightened. Had he made another mistake? Hundreds of employees were already seated. Executives stood near the stage. Victor stepped to the microphone. I owe someone an apology. The room became silent. Yesterday, I judged one employee based on a delayed delivery. He paused. I never asked why. Victor looked toward Daniel. Would badge number 7842 please come to the stage? Daniel slowly walked forward. The audience watched every step. Victor extended his hand. This is Daniel Brooks. He deliberately used his name. Yesterday, I reduced him to a number. I was wrong. The room remained completely still. Victor continued. Daniel delayed a presentation because he chose kindness over convenience. He helped a visitor who was lost. Minutes later, he comforted a frightened child until his family was found. That's not poor judgment. That's leadership. Applause slowly began. Then grew louder. Soon the entire auditorium stood. Daniel looked overwhelmed. He wasn't used to attention. Victor handed him a framed certificate. It wasn't for productivity. Or attendance. Or sales. It read. The Brightcore Human Impact Award. Presented to Daniel Brooks. For reminding us that the strongest companies are built one act of kindness at a time. Daniel smiled awkwardly. I don't really know what to say. The audience laughed softly. He looked at everyone. My daughter thinks every person deserves one chance to have a better day. He chuckled. Honestly. I've just been trying to prove her right. Several employees wiped away tears. The changes didn't stop there. Brightcore launched a new recognition program celebrating employees who demonstrated compassion toward coworkers, customers, and strangers. Performance reviews still mattered. Deadlines still mattered. But kindness became something worth noticing too. Managers started asking different questions. Who helped someone this week? Who made work easier for another person? Who solved a problem without expecting credit? The culture slowly shifted. Not overnight. But steadily. As for Victor, he made a habit of walking through the building every Friday morning. No entourage. No announcements. Just conversations. He learned names. Asked about families. Listened more than he spoke. He even stopped referring to employees by badge numbers altogether. Because he realized something simple. Every badge represented a story. Someone's dreams. Someone's struggles. Someone's family waiting at home. That evening, Daniel made it to Lily's science fair with 3 minutes to spare. She ran into his arms wearing safety goggles much too large for her face. "You made it. I promised, didn't I?" She proudly demonstrated her papier-mâché volcano. When it erupted with bright orange foam, she laughed so hard she nearly fell over. Daniel laughed too. For him, that moment mattered more than any company award ever could. On the drive home, Lily asked, "Dad?" "Yeah. Did you help anybody today?" Daniel smiled. "I think I did." She nodded thoughtfully. Mom used to say kindness is like skipping rocks. One little splash makes lots of circles. Daniel looked out the windshield for a moment before answering. "Your mom was very smart. Sometimes we assume the loudest voice in the room has the greatest influence. But life often tells a different story. Sometimes it's the quiet employee who chooses compassion when nobody is paying attention. The father who refuses to let hardship harden his heart. The stranger who stops to help even when running late. Kindness doesn't always earn applause right away. Sometimes it's misunderstood. Sometimes it's overlooked. Sometimes it's even criticized. But genuine kindness has a remarkable way of revealing character, not only in the person who gives it, but also in the people who witness it. Because titles can command respect. Authority can demand obedience. But only compassion earns trust. And long after badge numbers are forgotten, people will always remember how someone made them feel.